Now you know that how you can get these articles from the MySQL database and display them one by one in this article section. So you know that how to get these articles. Now let's move on to the next section, and here I'm going to create this beautiful pagination. So what if you have hundreds of articles in your WordPress theme? In that case, the pagination is very helpful to display your different articles. So this will just break your articles on different pages so the user can see all your articles on different pages. Let me just move to the pagination section in my WordPress theme. So I'm going to just back to my editor, and I'm going to have here index.php file. I'm going to open that index.php, and down here I'm going to have this pagination area here. I'm going to get rid of all these hard-coded values, and I'm going to call PHP syntax here. So I'm going to simply put this in the command, and just before this anchor tag right up here, I'm going to call a PHP syntax, and in this syntax I'm going to call a simple template tag which is paginate links. So using this template tag, I'm going to get the pagination links of this WordPress theme, and I'm going to print a value of these pagination links using echo statement. So I'm going to say here echo. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just specify array to this pagination. So I'm going to specify here array, and in the parenthesis of this array I'm going to specify values to this paginate links function. In the single quote I'm going to say mid size, it's going to be 2. I'm going to specify how many numbers to either side of the current page. So as you can see, I just specify here default value which is 2. I just wanted to display 2 pages on the WordPress page, so I'm going to specify here 2. Now just after that I want to specify my custom previous and the next button. So as you can notice here, I have this next button here. I also want to specify previous button to this pagination. So I'm going to specify here previous text, and I'm going to specify value to it. So in the parentheses I'm going to call a spawn tag. So I'm going to copy this spawn tag and paste it inside this single quote. So as you know, this is my right arrow, so I'm going to convert this right arrow into left. I'm going to just create one more parameter here and say next text, and the value is going to be a spawn tag. So I'm going to just call a spawn tag of right arrow. So I'm going to specify here semicolon, and now let me explain these paginate links. So using this function, or you can say using this template tag, you can create paginated links using numbers. So this will print number of pages on the current page. Using this property, I'm going to specify how many numbers I want to display on a current page. And using this previous text and the next text, I'm going to specify my custom icon for the next and the previous button. You can notice here, I have this next button here, and I'm going to specify this right arrow for that button. So I'm going to use here right arrow for the next button and left arrow for the previous button. Save the changes, back to the website and reload it. And now once you have your pagination links, I just want to specify style to it. As you can notice, I don't have padding to it, and I don't have any hover effect on it. Let me just back to my editor and open the style.css file. And in the pagination section, right down here, I'm going to just make some changes in this styling. So instead of selecting this spawn tag and adding padding to it, I'm going to add padding to the anchor tag. And I'm going to select this spawn tag again using pagination clause. So I'm going to say here pagination and specify spawn tag here. Save all the changes, back to the website and reload it. So as you can notice, I'm going to have padding to these anchor tags. Now what I want to create this hover effect on these anchor tags. So I'm going to back to my editor, and in the style.css file, I'm going to just remove this hover effect from this spawn tag. And I'm going to create this hover effect only on the anchor tag. Back to the website and reload it. As you can see, I'm going to have hover effect on these pagination links. Now, what if I click on this on the second pagination link? When I click on it, you can notice I'm going to have my next article here, the 11 number of article, because as you know, we specify setting in the WordPress theme to have only 10 articles on the single page. So I'm going to have 10 articles on that page, and the next article would be on the next page. So I'm going to have the next article here. I'm going to just back to my previous page by clicking on this previous button. When I click on it, You can notice I'm going to have my previous page here. As simple as that. So you can use this pagination to navigate through different pages. Now, once we know that how you can create the pagination for this WordPress theme, let me show you how you can create the sidebar. Now let me show you how easy it is to create the sidebar in the WordPress theme. So I'm going to back to my editor and I'm going to just open the index.php file. In this file, down here, you can notice I have the sidebar. I'm going to just grab this sidebar and put this sidebar in the new template file called Sidebar. To create a sidebar, we have a template file sidebar.php. Using that template file, you can create a sidebar and separate all the code of sidebar in the separate template file. So I'm going to first create a new file in this root directory. So I'm going to just minimize all these custom folders, and in the root directory of this project, I'm going to create a new file. So I'm going to click on this new file icon and I'm going to name this file sidebar. The extension of this file is PHP. Now I'm going to have this template file, and to call this template file, I'm going to use a template tag get sidebar. So I'm going to first grab this aside content, cut this content from here, and I'm going to create here a command, an HTML command, and inside this HTML command, I'm going to say get the sidebar template. And just out of this command, I'm going to call a PHP syntax, and inside it, I'm going to say get sidebar. So using this get sidebar template tag, I'm going to get this sidebar.php file. I'm going to just open the sidebar.php file and put all the content inside the sidebar. Now, once we have all the content in the sidebar, let me just move to the latest post and create the latest post section in the sidebar. You can notice here, in the latest post, I'm going to have the image, the categories of the post, and the title. You already know how you can simply add the title, the feature image, and the categories. We are going to use the same technique to create these categories. So I'm going to just back to my editor, and first let me just grab all the new posts. So I'm going to just grab all these new posts and put it inside a new template file. So I'm going to simply grab all these articles. I'm going to cut it and create here HTML command and say get template file using get template path. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file in this templates folder inside this temp folder, and I'm going to name that file sidebar dash latest post, and I'm going to specify extension PHP. Now I'm going to call this file using get template path template tag. So in the sidebar.php right here, I'm going to just call get template path here. So I'm going to call here PHP syntax and say get template path. And in the parentheses, I'm going to specify the path of this template file. So I'm going to say here templates, then specify temp folder, and inside it, I'm going to have this sidebar latest post. I'm going to get rid of these slugs from this file and specify all this slug in the second parameter. So to the second parameter, I'm going to say latest post. We don't need to specify extension for this template tag. Save the changes, and now we can create our latest post in this file. Now, before you move on, you need to understand a very crucial topic of WordPress, which is WP query class. And I'm going to show you why WP query class is most important to get different posts in the WordPress theme. Now, before we understand how you can create this latest post, let me explain what is WP query class. So I'm going to first create here a PHP syntax, and I'm going to add here a command and say what is WP query class. So let me explain what is WP query class. Now, if you ever work with WordPress loop, then you would find that using just a has post template tag, you will get the latest post. For example, if you open this post content, using just a simple has post, you are going to get the latest post. You can notice we use this has post and the post template tag to get the latest articles. Behind the scene, we are actually calling WP query class just before this template tag, just like this. So we are calling this WP query class just before these template tags. This template tag is calling the latest post for us. So behind the scene, this code something look like this. And in this WP query, I'm going to have a query about my blog post. This variable is also known as global post variable. Using this variable, you can filter your article. For example, WordPress will automatically display your articles in descending order. But what if you want to get that articles in the ascending order? In that case, we are going to use this WP query class. The WP global variable is used to call the blog post. But what if you want to filter the blog post? For example, let's say you want to grab the old post first rather than the latest post. In that case, you can use this WP query class and filter your post depending on your need. Now, let me show you how you can use this WP query class to filter your blog post. So I'm going to create here a variable to get the current page pagination number. So this will just display the blog post from the current page. So I'm going to create here a variable paged, and I'm going to call get query var function, and inside the parameter I'm going to say paged. And using a shorthand if-and-else statement, I'm going to just return the current page number to this paged variable. So I'm going to call here get query var function, specify the paged, and I'm going to just say here colon 1. So if the condition is true, I'm going to return this page number. Otherwise, I'm going to execute this else statement. So once I have the page number in this paged variable, let me just create here a new variable arguments. And I'm going to specify these arguments to the WP query class. So I'm going to create here an array, and inside this array, I'm going to specify different arguments to the WP query class. So I'm going to first create here a WP query class. So I'm going to just create here a variable loop. I'm going to store the WP query object in this loop variable. So I'm going to create here a loop variable and just create an object of the WP query class here. So I'm going to say here new to create a new object and just call WP query. And in the parentheses, I'm going to just call these arguments. So I'm going to just call these arguments in these parentheses. If you want, you can call this array in this parentheses as well. But this is the best approach to call these arguments in this WP query class. Now, in this array, I'm going to first specify the type of post to this WP query class. So I'm going to specify here post type, and it's going to be a type of post. Then I'm going to specify how many posts I want to display using this WP query class. So in the single quote, I'm going to say posts per page. So as the name implies, this property will allow to display only 5 posts on the page. Then just after that, I'm going to specify here page number. So I'm going to say here paged, and to this parameter, I'm going to specify a value paged. As simple as that. Now just after that, we need to create a for loop and display the blog post one by one. So I'm going to create here for loop. Just start this tag. I'm going to call a PHP syntax and say if have post. So as you can see, I'm going to call the default global post variable here. So instead of calling this global post variable, I'm going to call my WP query variable here. So I'm going to just say here loop, and I'm going to just call a method of this loop as post. Just out of that, I'm going to just specify colon here, and I'm going to create here PHP syntax again and just call a while loop here. So I'm going to say while, and in the parentheses, I'm going to call a WP query object loop and call a method have post. And I'm going to do the same and call the post method here. So I'm going to just call here loop and call the post. As simple as that. And just out of that, I'm going to just close this if statement and this while loop. So I'm going to just call here PHP syntax and just say and while. I'm going to just first end the while loop and then say PHP, call the else statement and specify PHP syntax again and say echo WP auto p, and in the parentheses I'm going to say sorry no post were found. So what if you don't have any post? In that case, I'm going to display this message to the user, and I'm going to just say here PHP and end this if statement. So I'm going to just say here and if. Now just for that, once you have your while loop, you need to just call a very important function here of this WP query. So just out of this while loop, I'm going to call here PHP syntax and just call a function WP reset query. So this function is used to destroy the previous query and set a new query. Just out of that, you need to call another function here, which is WP reset post data. Now this function is also very helpful because after looping through the nested query, this function restores the post global variable to the current post in this query. For example, let's say you remove these two functions and use this while loop in other template tag. In that case, you are going to get the same result in that template tag. So whenever you use this while loop, you are going to get this WP query on that blog post. So using this function, I'm going to restore the global post variable. So in the future, if you use this while loop, you're going to get the descending order of the blog post. As simple as that. Now, as you know, in this while loop, I'm going to call my articles. Now you know that how you can use this WP query class to filter different blog posts. Now let me show you how you can create the latest post in the sidebar section. So as you know, we have this loop of these articles. So I'm going to just create here article. So I'm going to just paste my all articles here. We have these different articles here. Now I'm going to just get rid of these articles and work with this single article. Now in these articles, you can notice I have two column layout. Now in this column, I'm going to have the image, which is the feature image of the blog post. Then I'm going to have these categories and then the title of the articles. Now it's very simple to get the feature image of the blog post. We know that. So I'm going to just back to my post content template tag and just copy this content. So I'm going to just copy this PHP tag and paste it inside this post image division tag. As simple as that. And I'm going to just get rid of this image tag from here. So I'm going to just add here comment. So as you can see, I'm going to have my feature image here. Now just out of that, I'm going to just get the categories. So I'm going to just get rid of these categories anchor tags. So I'm going to put these anchor tags in the comment. And I'm going to just call a template tag here, which is categories content. This one in the sidebar latest post. So I'm going to say here PHP and I'm going to say here get template part. I'm going to just call this categories content here. So I'm going to just call here templates, then call the temp folder, and inside it I'm going to have these categories, and I'm going to specify slug for these categories. So I'm going to specify here slug. In the second parameter, I'm going to say content. As simple as that. And just out of that, to specify the title, I'm going to have a simple template tag, the title. So I'm going to get rid of this hard-coded title and call the PHP syntax. And here I'm going to say echo the title. And to get the link of the article in this anchor tag, I'm going to specify a PHP syntax. And just here, I'm going to call the bottom link. So using this template tag, I'm going to have the link of my article in this href attribute. As simple as that. Save the changes, back to the website and reload it. When you scroll down, you're going to get your latest post here. Now because we use here get categories, I'm going to have all the categories to this post. So we need to solve this problem. So what I'm going to do is, instead of using this template tag get categories, instead of using this get categories template tag, I'm going to use here get the categories function. So instead of using this get categories function, I'm going to use get the category function. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just back to my latest post PHP, get rid of this get template part. I'm going to create here a variable. So in the PHP syntax, I'm going to create a variable categories. And I'm going to call a function get the category. So using this function, I'm going to get only the category which belongs to the blog post. So I'm going to just get that categories using this get the category function and store it in this variable. So once I have these categories, I can iterate that categories one by one. So I'm going to just grab the code from here. I'm going to grab this for each and paste this for each loop right here. But before I paste it, I'm going to just call here if the category section is not empty. I'm going to specify here categories. If it is not empty, then I want to execute this if statement. And in this if statement, I'm going to call that for each loop. And just out of that, as you know, we just specify these classes to these anchor tags. I'm going to get rid of this man tag, just like this, and specify these classes to the anchor tag. So I'm going to copy these classes and specify these classes to this anchor tag, like this. Save the changes, back to the website and reload it. Now as you can see, we have the latest post here. As simple as that. Now if you want to add space between these categories, you can specify a space right here. So I'm going to have a space between these categories. Now what if you want to display only 4 articles in this latest post? Using the WP query, I'm going to just do that with this simple parameter. So I'm going to just specify here 4. I'm going to have 4 blog posts on my page. When I save the changes, back to the website and reload it, you can notice I'm going to have only 4 articles here. So using this WP query, you can filter your any article depending on your need. Now in the next lecture, I'm going to show you how you can create this search form and these popular tags in this sidebar. So I will see you in the next one.